Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to Digital Bassey Podcast. My name is Samuel Udo Bassey. And on this episode of the podcast, I will not be doing my normal ranting. This time around, I'll be diving into my professional field of health and safety. And that is why on this episode, a special episode, I have a seasoned health and safety professional here in our midst. You're welcome. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ujunwa Okeke. I'm an HSC professional. Thank you for having me on the show, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you very much.
I never knew you rant.
Yes, I do rant on my podcast, actually.
It's okay.
So you're welcome to Digital Bassey Podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, so like I said, this episode is about health and safety profession. And before we came up with the conversation, I had this topic that I've hacked, and we generally discussed about some of the concerns in our field of health and safety. We're going to talk about contractors management. But before we dive into the topic itself, I want to ask you a lead-up question to that topic. When it comes to training of personnel, those that are involved in operational duties, I'll categorize them into three: the manager, the supervisor, and the field workers. Who do you think are topmost in the terms of the need for training, in terms of the hierarchy now, in the hierarchy order of the manager, the supervisor, and the field workers? Who do you think need health and safety training the most, or should be placed as a priority?
Okay, thank you for this wonderful question. From my perspective, I would say that the people on the field is the ones I would say that requires more training. Everybody needs training,
yes,
both the manager and the supervisor, but because the people on the field, they are the ones that are on hand on the activities going on the job. They interact with the hazards and all of that. The manager is more of administrative. The supervisor is just to, oversee how things are done. But these guys are the ones that are performing those activities. They are the ones that are having head-on collision with whatever hazard that is inherent with the work they do. And the toolbox talks that they give them will not be enough, will not give them the in-depth knowledge that they need to understand what are there in the work they do.
Okay, so their training should be put as a priority by the organization,
yes,
not just relegating them to, okay, you guys have your own set of training in toolbox talk, which is not usually long lasting. Okay, that's interesting. And why that topic and why I asked that question is because for most of the people that the field workers end up being like contractors in most organizations. So now when it comes to the management of these contractors, we realize that most of the headache that health and safety professionals face is not training or the culture in most organizations is usually well embraced by the core members of staff. But the contractors are usually the problem when it comes to what can you advise, or what have you seen in your own experience in the practice that you can bring to bear in this topic?
Sammy, thank you for this question. To me, from my own experience, it's not enough to have competent contractors to be your contractor to outsource your activities to do for you. It's not enough to do inductions for them. It's not enough to sign permits to work for them. It's not enough. All those things are not enough. There are other soft skills or activities that the organization has to employ in order to ensure that the health and safety of the organization is well secured in terms of the activities of those contractors. And what are those soft spots there? In my own experience, interacting with those unskilled workers, because that's what the contractors use majorly, because that's what they can afford in their pay. Yeah. So you find out that they change some of these unskilled workers often, like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You will see another person has been introduced, and the new person to me is a hazard because the person has not enough knowledge to what health and safety is all about. So by going around to supervise, to me, supervisors, HSC person on site should be able to interact, know them by name, have discussions with them, so that when you come on site, maybe any day you come up and see a new face, you will know that this person is a new person. And to you, that new person is already a hazard. How about Michael? Michael did not come today. Oh, he's no longer here. And you see a new person that has replaced Michael. You have to double up in order to create more awareness and let the person understand the need for his safety at the workplace.
Yeah. Thank you very much for saying that. Going back to my question that I asked initially about the importance of training and who the training that is more relevant for. It's not that the trainings are not relevant for the managers.
Exactly.
That's not what we're trying to say.
Training.
Everybody needs training. But in terms of who need the training the most, we've come to realize that the field workers actually do require a whole lot more training than the toolbox talks that they're exposed to at the start of their job. Exactly. And the safety meetings that some of them are part of. And some other, minor, trainings that they do. What I've come to realize is that for most organizations, they send managers and supervisors to 3 days training,
even 1 week.
1 week training on health and safety. But when it comes to the field workers, they barely have any form of, training. So that's why it is important. And for contractors, for you to be able to effectively manage contractors, the crop of contractors brought into your organization must be those that are properly trained. So one way in which health and safety professionals can actually help in contractors management is to make sure that the contracting company are forced to ensure that the people that are bring in for the clients have passed through the required training that is mandatory or that is commensurate to their skill level. On a passing shot, what else would you like to put out to organizations and even
like I said before, it's not enough to do induction and permit to work and all of that for them. Like I said, we have to look out for the new entrants. I mean, the new unskilled workers they introduced into the site each time they are being introduced because they are hazards, because they are more or less not too aware of what safety is all about.
Thank you very much for coming by on this podcast.
Thank you.
And to our viewers out there, thank you for staying by and keep on watching the podcast. Uju would come back some other time to discuss another topic on health and safety. Catch you guys next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Sammy, stop ranting.